All right, so let's go over this upper that I've been I've been eyeballing it, right, for a little while. Been thinking about what my next upper build's going to be, and I wanted to do something a little bit different, something that I haven't done before. I wanted a length that I don't have, and so I was like really trying in my head to think about what I wanted to do. I thought about going with a proper 11.5, but with the whole pistol brace debacle, I just like that's not something I really want to mess with right now. I thought about going with a 10.5 front sight base or front sight post, whatever you want to call it, free float handguard build. I thought that would be pretty cool. I already had a stripped upper to match this JL Billet lower, right? So I was, even though I've got this Blackout Defense on it, and it works really well. I really like the build on this. I decided to build another upper for it. I can switch out the Blackout Defense upper, and this is what I did with the upper. And not everything's put together on it. I just kind of stuck the parts on just to see what it looked like. That's because I always like to do that. And that's the JL Billet upper. I still need a bolt carrier group. I still need a ejection port cover. I still need a charging handle. I still need a gas block. I have the gas tube for it. And I've got to send it out because the gas block that I'm going to use is going to be a front sight post with a free float handguard. And this is probably going to be like one of the most difficult upper builds that I'm going to do. Because for those of you, like most of the front sight post builds and uppers that you see are going to be with a standard delta ring. But I didn't want a delta ring. I wanted a free float mlok handguard. And there's not a whole lot of manufacturers out there that make free float handguards for front sight bases. This is a Fortis Camber handguard. And I believe it's like 11.7 or 11.8 inches. And this barrel is a 13.9 inch Geissele. So it's got a tapered barrel design, but it still utilizes a 7.50 diameter gas block, which you're going to need for a front sight base. So don't have a 13.9 or a 13.7, so that's kind of why I picked that. I didn't even realize that Geissele made a 13.9. I thought all they made was 10.3s, 11.5s, 14.5s, and 16s. Because that's basically most of the stuff that I think that's all the uppers they make on the website. So they must be producing the 13.9 barrels for just for purchase, for the market, more or less. So Geissele makes good stuff. It's a cold hammer forged chrome line, so I really like that. The thing that I've heard online, and they don't actually state it on their website. Geissele does not state this on their website, is that the barrel is made out of 4140 chromoly vanadium instead of 4150, like most other cold hammer forged barrels are out there. So is that going to make a big difference? Probably not. You might get like another 1,000 or 2,000 rounds out of 4150. I do think they probably do that because the forging is probably a little bit easier on a softer metal, on a 40% carbon percentage steel that they're using instead of the 50% carbon percentage steel that most other barrel manufacturers are using out there on the market. But I thought this is going to be a very, very cool build. I do have to send this out to get the front sight base. I've got a CMMG front sight base coming in, but it has not come in yet. And I'm going to send this out to get it pinned. But all they have to do is drill it. And I'm going to have to take the taper pins, and I'm going to have to install the handguard and everything at the same time. Like, you can't put the front sight base on there and then put your handguard, obviously. So that's what's going to make this build so difficult. But I really like the design, and I emailed Fortis, and they told me the bottom portion here was specifically designed so you could still tap in your taper pins on your front sight base. because obviously that's the only way you could really do it. And this Fortis camber is kind of an interesting handguard design. It is super robust. It's got no anti-rotation properties on like how some have these little tabs that stick out for the upper, or they have a little key cutout that goes into the upper and the handguard. Some people do that, but it uses a cam system on the steel barrel nut, which I really like. But you're still able to unlock the handguard and take it off if you really wanted to. Not that I need it to do that, but it's kind of an interesting design. Just something to keep in mind, like let's say you have an adjustable gas block that you can't easily get to. This might be a good handguard for that, because you could honestly just take off the handguard, adjust the gas block, put it back on, and just torque down the it's just a lock and unlock for the handguard system. Kind of an interesting design. I like Fortis products. I know not a lot of people use Fortis products, but I've been nothing but impressed with Fortis products. So I figured I'd go ahead and continue to keep on supporting them. Like the main things that I like are their castle nut and end plates and their safety selectors. Haven't used a rail, but for this particular build, I thought it was cool. Now, does the handguard not come out all the way to the end of the barrel? It doesn't, so I don't have as much real estate, but I still have the ability to mount a decent flashlight on this. I could actually push it out with like a straight mlok, what do you call it? An inline scout mount, which I'll probably end up doing. And then I just put this Sons of Liberty Gunworks Knox that I had laying around. Obviously, it's not like timed or anything, because you can see that the pinhole is right up there on the top, which I'm going to have to shim and time it anyway. But I just kind of threw it together just to see what it looked like. I think it is a very cool design. One thing that to keep in mind, like if you're ever interested in the JL Billet upper receiver, because it's very cool. It's very cool looking. It's billet, obviously, and it's very skeletonized. They do a lot of machining work to it. No forward assist or anything, but the way that their upper comes out, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that right here. Most standard handguards aren't going to work, because most standard handguards have anti-rotation tabs that go at least that protrude a little bit past the upper receiver. And according to JL Billet, none of those are going to work. And from what I've tried of different handguards, like I've got the Q handguard laying around. I've taken off the BCM handguard, my Midwest Industries handguard, and tried to fit it on this upper. None of those work. So just something to keep in mind if you ever want to do a JL Billet upper type build. So that's another reason why I picked the Fortis Camber handguard, because it didn't have any anti-rotation tabs on it. It just utilizes a cam system to keep it from rotating. And there's no timing of the barrel nut, and it seems like a really robust system. But I'm not a huge fan of that ability to not be able to utilize anti-rotation tabs on the JL Billet upper receiver. But I did want a matching upper for the JL Billet lower. I'm going to just do it just like this instead of popping this off, because I have the on the lower, it's got like a little set screw on the bottom by the grip to keep it nice and tight to the upper, and I've got nice and tight to this Blackout Defense upper receiver. So it's a little hard to drive out that pen, but I did that on purpose. And I did want to talk about a couple of things on the Blackout Defense. I've taken this out, and this has been really nice shooting. It's a little heavy. Like the barrel profile is a little heavier, so it's a little top or front heavy, I should say. And I ended up buying the Blackout Defense Hybrid. I think this is a Chemo silencer compatible muzzle device. This is a little, like, this is supposed to be like a flash hider comp, kind of like in the same vein as a War Comp or Knox. This produces a little more flash than those two. So this is more of like a compensator than it is a flash hider. I did see more flash on this than the other two, so that's something to keep in mind. But it's a very well machined muzzle device. You can see it's a little dirty up there, so you can see it's been shot. I've shot about 200 rounds through this, so not a whole lot. And the trigger, I ended up getting a Blackout Defense Zero trigger. This is their hybrid shoe, 4.5 pound. I went with the 4.5 pound over the 3.5 pound. And you can see there's absolutely no take up on this trigger. Nice crisp break. Let's look at this reset. Nice short right reset. It's just a super nice trigger. Really, really like the trigger. It's an expensive trigger though. I paid like $237 for that damn trigger, so it better be good for that price. Is it any better than... I'm going to show this a little bit later, but I'll show you this trigger, right? This trigger is the Rise Armament RA535. Is it any better than that trigger? Not really. The Rise Armament's got a lighter trigger pull. That's like a 3 or 3.5 pound. Now that I've shot that trigger, it's probably closer to a 3 pound. I do like the 4.5 pound. Like, I'm getting used to heavier trigger pulls on my ARs. I'm actually preferring a little heavier trigger pulls on my ARs. So I like the feel of the Blackout Defense Zero trigger a little bit better. But if you're looking for like the same quality of take up and reset and everything, the Rise Armament feels roughly the same. It's just a little bit lighter. It's still a quality trigger made by a quality company, however. I really like Blackout Defense too, and I'll continue to support them. So that's kind of the update on the more or less like the JL Billet stuff, the Blackout Defense, and this new upper receiver group that I'm putting together. So I think it's going to be an interesting build. I don't see a whole lot of free floated front sight base upper receiver groups out there on the market. And this is going to be a little difficult to build, but I think it's going to be cool. I'm thinking about going with a Cryptic Coatings Mystic Bronze bolt carrier group, and I'll probably go with like a Geissele Super Charging handle or something, radiant charging handle of that sort. And don't know what kind of optic I'm going to run on this, but I'm kind of thinking either like an aim point or an EOTech. So I want to do a red dot or a holographic for this particular upper. So that way, like, I usually like LPVOs, but with the front sight base, I think it will work better with a red dot. So I can either lower 1/3 or co-witness that red dot. So that's an upper receiver group that I'm working on, and just a little bit of an update on the JL Billet lower and the Blackout Defense. I must say though, hold on, I'm not done with this one. I know I mentioned this before, but there is no bolt hold open for the JL Billet. There's just a bolt drop. But this bolt drop is probably like the smoothest, like lightest bolt drop that I've used for ambi style lower receivers. Like, that's a really nice button. It's definitely easier to engage than the ADM and easier to gauge than the Radian. So just something that I notice. Not that you ever want it to be super easy, but if your bolt's locked back, you're probably wanting to drop it because you're either changing out mags or having a malfunction. Hold on, I got one more thing here. The Trijicon TR24 here, I bent it. I hit this pretty hard on a wooden bench out there on the range, and it bent the tube, but I haven't had any reliability issues from it. So I haven't really contacted Trijicon or anything. It's just a little bit of a bend right on the tip of the LPVO. So that's just the downside to using LPVOs, is that they're not as durable as, let's say, a red dot and stuff. So yeah, that's the update for this particular build and this other upper receiver group that I am currently working on. I think it's going to be cool. not that cool matters, but it's also going to be quality. I'm going to use some quality parts, high-end parts and stuff like I typically do. I'm excited about it. Don't have any front sight base builds, but I'm trying to like further expand my horizons as far as like ARs go, even though it kind of matches my style more or less. But let me know what you guys think.